Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Profits. As always, we thank you guys so much for being here for another video. We're excited to bring to you, at least I'm very excited. I've been waiting to do this video for quite a while. Our deep sleepers. We might do a part 2. Leave us in the comments down below if you want to hear more about some deep sleeper players. But anyways, we're really excited about this. Before we get into it, we got a few things to talk about. First of all, go out and check out our Instagram page. Follow us and see our posts there. A lot of people want us to post videos more often. Unfortunately, we spend hours doing research for this on top of editing the videos and filming and publishing it. It takes a lot of time. So instead of posting videos every day, we try to post videos 3 times a week, and on top of that now, I'm posting multiple posts to Instagram every day, posting content that aren't always in the video, so you're getting stuff that you can't get anywhere else. So you absolutely have to go to our Facebook, have to go to our Instagram, follow us, friend us on there, go check us out. You can see all those posts. We're doing plenty of things, and of course, if the feedback and the response keeps being positive, as it has been for the last couple of days, I'll continue to do more on there. So again, we're really excited. Go check out our Instagram. This is, we've been adding new things this off season, improving the website, trying, figure out which videos we want to do, buying a better mic, lots of things. I think out of all of those things, I'm the most excited about this. I don't know about you, Rob, but I think this is going to be great.
Yeah, we're going to increase, I think, our videos, how many we put out, but more important than quantity is quality. And so as we improve the quality of our website and things that we do, build out our social media base, eventually we're going to do more videos, but we don't want to just throw videos out there for the sake of videos. We want to do good research. So I think that we're going to get to that place, but right now we're working out some kinks. And I think we've come a long way in a year, and we've come a long way because of you guys, because of your support, your feedback, things you've said. We appreciate that. You partner with us in many other ways, so we'll get to that place eventually.
Yeah, exactly. One of the most useful and encouraging things from you guys is when you like the video and comment. So make sure to do that. Just leave something in the comments. Tell us what you think. We want to hear from you. Of course, if you've left a comment before, you probably know that we respond to just about every comment, or at least we try to. Unfortunately, it's not always possible, especially during the season. So that was just a little update for you guys, but let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. Of course, first, Rob, let's just be clear here. Define what a deep sleeper is.
Well, I'm not going to give you a real clear definition because I don't know if there is. What is the difference? We've done a couple of videos called sleeper videos, but now we're calling this a deep sleeper video. So what's the difference between a sleeper versus a deep sleeper? Well, I guess the best way to put it would be this way for me. Often the average fan, when they look at deep sleepers, the average fan's not going to hear these guys or haven't heard of them yet. Usually at this point in the year, these deep sleepers are not being drafted in mock drafts, although as hype grows, that can start to change a little bit. These guys will begin to creep into mock drafts, but right now, you're not going to hear a lot of them. If you're somebody that's looking at drafting a deep sleeper, he might be a guy, for example, I'll talk about a tight end later on for San Diego in the video, and he may not be a guy that you want to draft. He might want to wait a week or two until he can kind of a prove-it game to show whether or not he's going to, that preseason hype is going to equal to kind of game time statistics. The other thing we think about deep sleepers, they're more obscure than your average sleeper. That's kind of the best way for me to define. Your deep sleeper is just more obscure than your average sleeper. And it requires more of you need to be more of a prognosticator, read between the lines. Statistically, look at some of the subtle nuances of the game really to find these guys. You can dig a lot deeper in terms of where they're at. But these guys have huge value. And so once again, this is our deep sleeper video. Why don't you get us started, Christian, with your first deep sleeper?
Yeah, exactly. Well, before actually I get into my first deep sleeper, I think it's just really important. For me, a sleeper is a guy that I'm excited about. I think he's going to exceed expectations or have a breakout year, have a very solid season, and surpass what people think he can do, barring, of course, any major change like an injury or suspension or something like that. But deep sleepers are kind of the opposite of that almost, in just the effect that we need that sort of change. With a sleeper, we don't want the change because we currently think they're going to be good. But with these deep sleepers, a lot of times we do need a change because we just haven't quite seen enough, or there's some obstacle in their way. But we'll talk more about that later. Again, it's kind of a blurry line. Anyways, we'll quit wasting time and I'll get into my first guy now. All right, so my first guy is Trent Taylor. Here's a guy that I found really obscurely, and at first I was like, nah, I don't really trust him, I don't really know. But then as farther and farther that I looked into it, I'm starting to get pretty excited about this guy. First thing is, you might find with a lot of deep sleepers, I think it's going to take a few weeks into the season, maybe even halfway into the season, for him to really hit his stride and to develop into the player that I think that he can be. So that's the first qualification that I would make. Trent Taylor is a receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. He's 5'8", 178 pounds, and drafted in the 5th round. So those are kind of drafted in the 5th round last season. Last season was his rookie year, and in fact, that's why he dropped to the 5th round. A lot of people had a little bit of concerns about his size. But that is just fine. That's not a problem, especially according to the way that he plays. He was a top performer in the draft. His 20-yard shuttle was a 4.01, and a 60-yard shuttle was 11.14. Very fast. He's a quick, good route runner with great separation and great hands. In fact, a lot of people's biggest concern was, oh, well, he resembles Wes Welker. And Wes Welker's too small, and he was never a big guy. And first of all, if you're a rookie, like, getting compared to Wes Welker's good news. Like, that's not a bad thing at all. So there were concerns about that, especially like that he is that Wes Welker sort of quick receiver that fits extremely well with Jimmy Garoppolo's play. He's got one of the fastest releases in the NFL, and in fact, when he came in and started playing for the 49ers last year, he really shortened those plays there. Average passing play length shortened quite a bit into the 2-second range, low 2 seconds, like 2.3 or whatever it was. And so that fits this receiver extremely well. Before Jimmy Garoppolo took over, he was averaging 2.6 receptions per game, and after, in those last 5 games, it bumped up to 3.4 catches a game. So that's another piece of good news. Clearly, Jimmy Garoppolo likes him. In fact, a lot of people would be surprised that he was secretly a fairly good rookie. A lot of people don't know he was 3rd among rookie receivers with receptions. He had 43 catches last year. So again, I'm really excited to see what he can do. I think he's going to fit well into that system, especially with that quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo.
All right. So my first deep sleeper is kind of borderline for me. My first deep sleeper is going to be Jordan Matthews, and here's why I call him borderline. For the longest time there, he wasn't being drafted in the top 60 for wide receivers, but as of late, he's starting to creep into some mock drafts, so I think people are starting to talk about him a little bit. I think he's a guy right now that was on the bubble for me. Is he a deep sleeper? Is he a sleeper? Currently I call him a deep sleeper, but I think in a few weeks, I think people will continue talking about this guy, and he's going to move from deep sleeper into that category of sleeper, kind of like what we had said earlier. Now, currently, Jordan Matthews, his average draft position is 59th wide receiver being taken. That's where he's at currently. Now, many forget that early in his career, he was really a rising star in terms of fantasy football. He had a very, very good rookie year. In fact, his numbers his rookie year were this. He had 67 catches, 872 yards, and 8 TDs. That's a very good rookie year for a wide receiver. Comes out his second year, and he finished with 85 catches, 997 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. So he improves on that. So he's trending in the right direction. He looks poised for his 3rd year to come out, break 1,000 yards. I expected he was going to. In fact, I was big on him going to his 3rd year. Now, we see a little drop in production his 3rd year. Okay, so the drop in production is 73 catches, 804 yards, and only 3 TDs. With that said, though, he only played in 14 games. If you take those numbers and you project them out to 16 games, his production that year wasn't that far off his previous year. That was his career best. In fact, if you project that out over 16 games, he would have had 83 catches, 919 yards, so not bad at all. Now, in his 4th year playing in Buffalo, he struggled quite a bit. This is where the wheels kind of came off in terms of where he was at. But I think you could easily chalk that up as 1, injuries, 2, he's playing in Buffalo, and 3, just quarterback play. That was just a perfect storm of a lot of things working against him right there. Now, this guy's got good size. He's 6'3". That's good wide receiver size. And he's still young at 25. Now, he's been in the league 4 years. This is going to be his 5th year, and it feels like he's been around for a long time, but he's really pretty young at 25. I mean, he's got room to grow. Also, he's still in his prime. Now, as of now, there's a lot of positive reports coming out of the Patriots camp about how he's doing. In fact, ESPN Boston reports that Jordan Matthews has made a good first impression on the Patriots. In fact, it goes on to say that ESPN's Mike Reese, who covers the team, said that he's one of the first players on the field at practice each day and the last one to get off. He believes that if Matthew doesn't emerge as one of the better receivers on that team or make the team, it won't be for a lack of effort. Now, right now, they brought him in under a very small contract. The only guaranteed money that they owe him is going to be $170,000. And so the money that he's going to make is pretty small for a guy who maybe had a setback injury-wise, but there's incentive for the team to bring him on board. Well, not only his talent, but once again, the small contract, that's a small hit for that team. I think another added bonus for him and why I think he could be a deep sleeper and have a very good year this year. As you look at Hogan and Gronk can't stay healthy. Both those guys have shown they can be productive, but both of them have a hard time staying healthy the last few years. You also look at Brandon Cooks is gone, and Julian Edelman's going to miss 4 games with a PED suspension. So somebody needs to step up in that offense. I think another thing that bodes really well for this guy and why he's going to see playing time, and that's he's versatile. If you take a look at him, he can actually play 3 wide receiver positions. He can play the X, Z, and slot position. So that's going to be more playing time, more opportunities for him to be on the field. What I think is important because the Patriots, they like to bring different schemes, different looks, and different packages. So I think it's going to really bode well for him. So when I take a look at where he's at, everything goes well. He's making a nice impression. He's building up good rapport with Tom Brady. He's healthy. He could easily rebound back to his year 2 statistics. And I see him being a solid wide receiver 3 play this year. Now, when I say a wide receiver 3, why not higher ceiling for this guy? I do think his ceiling's a little limited. And it's not because of lack of talent. I think it's limited because the Patriots' propensity to spread the ball around in many different weapons. With that said, I really like Jordan Matthews to have a bounce back year and to be a very good play. Right now, he's a deep sleeper for me on that kind of bubble of moving into that sleeper conversation.
Yeah, it's funny you should talk about his ceiling. It's interesting when you just talk about all the different things about him and what's going on in his current situation. You mentioned how his ceiling is a little bit low. I was just thinking of all the guys we're talking about in this video, he might have the highest ceiling. When he came out a few years ago when he was a rookie and the way he was, I had him on some teams. I thought he was going to be just great. And things hadn't quite panned out for him yet, but he's still so young. And when you look at that team, that wide receiving core is a mess right now. Someone really needs to step up and emerge, honestly, as the man. I know they have Julian Edelman, but with the suspensions and, to be honest, the fact that I'm never really too impressed with him, although he's not a bad wide receiver. I think there's a lot of room for him to step up into that number 2, maybe number 1 receiver role, but we're just probably number 2.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot he could do there, especially with a good quarterback. It's not like he's going to be the number 2 receiver for a bad quarterback. He's got Tom Brady.
Yeah, there's some other guys there. I know they brought down Cordell Patterson there, but one, he's a gadget player, great on kickoffs, but the guy's just not a legitimate wide receiver. He also got Kenny Britt. Kenny Britt, early in his career, had showed some things, but ever since the knee surgery, he's not been the same wide receiver. And last year, he didn't do a whole lot. So, yeah, I really think he's poised to have a good year.
All right, that's another solid guy to look at. All right, now I'm going to talk about a guy that I was excited about. He was actually one of the first names that popped in my head when we talked about doing this video. That's Michael Gallup, wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. I think that he could have a very good year. I think he's going to have a very good career, though I wouldn't be surprised if, just like Trent Taylor, it took him a few weeks or even maybe a season for him to really work into his role. With Witten and Dez Bryant leaving, that leaves a lot of receptions, a lot of targets, a lot to be missed by Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's now looking for new guys to throw the ball to, so that's great. Of course, they went out and got Allen Hurns, but Allen Hurns is not enough. Allen Hurns is really the only weapon there right now that a lot of people I think would consider a fairly solid weapon. I think some people are expecting him to have a good year, but even if Allen Hurns is the man, someone's got to step up there as well and do something at the number 2 spot, and I think that could be Michael Gallup. At 6'1", 205 pounds, he's a very good wide receiver, very big wide receiver. He went out in the combine and had a great vertical jump, which I think is huge. He's a great big target who's able to go up and get balls. He's got great hands. I'm really excited to see what he can do this year, especially with his receiver build. I think that it complements Dak Prescott. Peter Helm said that Gallup has found new ways to generate space on his routes and has been a reliable pass catcher whenever thrown the ball to. That's a great praise from Peter Hellman. Also, Cowboys team reporter David Hellman noted that third-round rookie Michael Gallup has shown good rapport with Dak Prescott, that they get along well with each other, and that they have great chemistry in the passing game. I think that's absolutely huge, especially when we look at rookie wide receivers coming in. I think that there are a lot of very talented wide receivers. There are a lot of guys who are really fast, a lot of guys who can catch, and simply the question put is, does the quarterback want to throw the ball to him? I think that's huge. And you know what? It's looking right now like Dak Prescott, as I just said, they have good rapport, and it looks like Dak Prescott really likes him, especially that big body receiver. He could be a nice, safe route to throw to. I think you have a great season. I'm excited to see what we can do.
Yeah, I think half the battle being having a successful rookie season in fantasy football terms is really finding an opportunity. And I think he's in a great situation right now. I like Allen Hurns, although Allen Hurns I don't think he's a great wide receiver. But really, honestly, there's so many opportunities for this guy to shine, and so he falls into a perfect setting to be successful. It'll be very interesting to see how he develops as camp gets closer and how he plays in the preseason.
Exactly.
So my second deep sleeper is Chris Godwin, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now currently he's not even his average draft position. He's not even in the top 60 for wide receivers, so he's not even cracking that at this point. Now if you look at the Tampa Bay Times, Rick Stroud, who covers the team, had singled out sophomore Chris Godwin among the Bucs standouts this spring. He goes on to say he makes a lot of plays every day in practice, has shined in minicamp. He's subject to constant praise throughout the offseason after he finished his rookie year on a high note, and down the stretch he performed admirably in spot starts. Offensive coordinator said Godwin has earned the right to start and see heavy snaps in the 3 wide receiver set. So right now, this guy is really trending the right direction, not only the end of last year, but even off season and so far in some of the camps that they've had, he's looking really good. Now, going back to last year, the first 7 games of the year, he averaged only 12 yards per game, so it was really bad. For the last 8 games, he went up to 55 yards per game he was averaging. In fact, the last game, the last week of the season, kind of gives us a glimpse of what this guy's capable of. He goes out the last week, has 7 catches, 111 yards, and a TD. Now, some would say that's a fluke, but the week before that, he had 3 catches for 98 yards. And he finished with what I would call a solid rookie campaign. He had 34 catches, 525 yards. May not sound great, but I think those are really good numbers when you consider the fact that for much of the season, he was the 4th wide receiver option on that team. And so it took him quite a while to really kind of work his way up on that depth chart. He had a very good sophomore and junior season at Penn State before entering the draft. Now, some people are surprised at how well and how he adjusted the NFL and how well he did. That said, if you look back at what they described some of his strengths in the combine coming out of Penn State there, here's what they said. And after hearing this, you realize, okay, this is a guy who's got some legit skill. Here's what they said his strengths were. Plays with good determination, strength through his routes. He's always ready to hand fight in coverage. Creates separation through good route leverage and good route running. Presses aggressively into defender before making his break at the top of the route. He's unafraid to test the middle of the field. I like that, a guy that's not afraid to go into coverage, because in the NFL you're going to take hits. Obviously, you don't want to take a lot of hard hits, but you can't be afraid going over the middle. Goes on to say he naturally uses his hands. He's got strong hands. He'll make his money winning 50-50 balls in the red zone and down the middle. He's outstanding tracking the ball, rarely adjusts to the deep ball prematurely. Goes on to say waits to begin body adjustment until the time is right. He has good body control. He can rise up and wrest the ball away from cornerbacks. Works well with quarterbacks during scrambles, and just a number of things that they said. So when you read that and then you go back to success, you start to realize that this guy might be the real deal. Now, right now, a lot of people are going to project he's going to become the wide receiver, the Bucks' number 3 wide receiver, with Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson ahead of him. Now, here's what I'm going to say, looking at his ceiling and his floor. Where is he at? Well, one, Deshaun Jackson's not young anymore at 31 years old, and he had his worst season last year. He only had 668 yards, which for me is very telling when you consider the fact that, one, the Bucks had a terrible defense and was constantly playing from behind, so they were always throwing the ball late in games, and yet Deshaun Jackson only had 668 yards in 14 games. That's not that good. So with the right breaks, with continued progress, currently I think he projects as a wide receiver 3 on that team. But I could see him actually becoming the number 2 wide receiver if everything falls in place right for this guy. Keep your eye on Chris Godwin. He's a guy that I think is a deep sleeper out there.
Yeah, I actually really like that pick. One thing to add to that, I would actually be surprised if he didn't become the number 2 wide receiver in Tampa. What I was going to say, and I'm glad you talked about it, is Deshaun Jackson last year looked kind of awful. And I wouldn't be surprised if that trend continued. He's another year older, and typically guys who are 31 years old don't suddenly get better, but
well, yeah, I think the first thing that goes for an NFL player is their speed and their quickness, typically. The height, the size, some of those things, obviously height doesn't go away, but some of the strength one. Well, you look at it, he's a wide receiver that relies solely on his speed. And at 31, I think you can see that quickness is gone. He's not getting quite the separation. And so I think that decline last year that he had is going to continue this year. So.
All right, solid pick there, that's for sure. All right, so now I'm going to talk about Christian Kirk. Here's a guy that I'm pretty excited about. Wasn't sure what to think about him, but you just do the research and pull your emotions out. And I think that he's going to have a good year. I don't like him because he got in trouble. Now, here's the thing. He was a first-round talent. Of course, he's a rookie this year. He's a first-round talent who ended up being a second-round pick because of a February arrest, which was dropped, by the way, but he was got drunk and was throwing rocks at a building. And that really makes me not want to go near the guy. I don't like guys who get in trouble, especially for something stupid like that. Like, how old are you? Be a grown man, you know. But pull your emotion aside. I think he hasn't gotten in any trouble since then. I like the charges were dropped. I like what he said just a few days ago to a reporter. He said, "I'm just happy that it's all over with and I can focus on football." One thing that's never been questioned with him is he loves football. Christian Kirk is a guy who they say is very excited to be there, carries a lot of energy, and is fun to be around. Of course, I love to talk about stats and the numbers and what have they done in the NFL, but of course he's a rookie. We haven't seen what he's done in the NFL, and it's really hard to compare college stats to NFL stats. It's very, very difficult. So let's just look at some reports that are coming out. Reports from minicamp have Kirk taking almost exclusively first team reps, and looks like he will open the season as the second receiver on the depth chart behind Larry Fitzgerald. That's huge news. That is already sounding like he's going to come out and be the second receiver on the team, which I think bodes really well for him, particularly the way he plays. He's not the fastest wide receiver in the world, but he has good footwork, route running. They say he has phenomenal hands and plays physical. My only concern with him is that he sounds like a very much like a slot receiver at this point, very much like a possession receiver, and they really already have that with Larry Fitzgerald. However, they drafted him in the second round despite his arrest for a reason. They clearly think he's very talented, and they plan on playing him at the outside and have been working a lot on his speed and getting him into that offense. Again, reports have been so good lately about what he brings to the team and how talented he is. Again, they praise him for his hands and his route running, his footwork, which is absolutely great. Those are the type of receivers that I love. So I think he could be really good if he does end up coming out week 1 as the number 2 wideout.
Yeah, I really like this guy too. A lot of things I like about him just in his talent alone, but I think he's in a great situation again to be successful. One, you got David Johnson there, and then you also got Larry Fitzgerald. So he's not got a lot of looks from defense. He's going to be in a lot of one-on-one coverage. So I think he has a position where he can really succeed there. So I'm high on this guy also. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, especially with David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald, I think that could be one of those situations where you have your absolutely talented guys, they help you drive down the field, of course, but when you get into the end zone, defense is really focused on them a lot. Maybe that means Christian Kirk could go out there and steal a couple of touchdowns here and there. Who knows, but I'm excited to see what you can do. We'll move on now. You can talk about your next guy now, Rob.
So my next guy is Brayden Bowman. And he is the real definition of a deep sleeper at this point. And most people have never heard of this guy. He's the tight end for the Chargers at this point. And so let's look at the whole situation that he's in. Why do I think that Brayden Bowman is a guy that could maybe be a breakout deep sleeper? Well, you look at the Chargers and Philip Rivers. Throughout the years, they've shown that they like to use their tight ends, especially in the red zone. We saw that, obviously, with Antonio Gates. So Antonio Gates retires. Looks like it's going to be Hunter Henry's year. Tears his ACL. He's out for the year, leaving a major offensive and statistical void on that team that somebody needs to fill. Now, the guy that I think is going to do that, at least I think the frontrunner at this point to do that, is Brayden Bowman. Unless, of course, the Chargers bring somebody in outside the organization. There's still that possibility they may do that, but currently they haven't done that yet. Now, a lot of people out there are thinking Virgil Green is going to be the guy. They think he's a sneaky play, but he's not the answer. He was brought in primarily as a blocking tight end. He's not the answer in passing downs. In fact, his best year, he's been in the league 7 years. In his best year, he only had 237 receiving yards. He's only averaged 115 yards in those 7 seasons, so he's not an offensive threat there. Now, if you take a look at the coaching staff and the statements they're making about Bowman at this point, they're saying he's been a standout so far in off-season workouts. They really like what this guy is doing. Now, last year was on the practice squad, but the injury, of course, to Henry and the retirement of Gates really opens up an opportunity for him to get on that roster. Now, so I think what a lot of people do is, who is this guy? Like I did when I first saw him, I looked at his college numbers. You know what? His college numbers weren't that great either. And so right away, it's like, okay, he didn't do great in college. What, makes us think he's going to make that transition to become a great offensive tight end in the NFL? And so what it makes me think of sometimes is Fred Jackson. Do you remember Fred Jackson, the Buffalo Bills running back? You may not know this, but he's a great story. So I'm going to tell you about Fred Jackson. We'll kind of bring it back around him. But Fred Jackson, okay, so he attends Lamar High School in Arlington, Texas, where he played football. Okay, played high school football there for the Lamar Vikings team late in the 1990s. He never started a game in his 2 years on the varsity team because they considered him too small at 5'8", 160. And they also said he was too slow. So he begins his senior year as a third-string running back. The third-string running back, okay? Then there was an injury to the starter, Justin Faust, who was headed to Stanford. So then he becomes elevated to second string, but he's still behind a guy named, I think it's called Tomikis or something like that. Walker, I don't know how you say his name. Doesn't matter. It's not in the NFL. I know some are going to hate on me for not getting that name right, but I doubt you know who he is either. So anyways, this guy's headed to TCU. Now, during his senior year, Fred Jackson, right, 14 of his teammates all get letters of intent to play college football, but he doesn't receive any offers at all. Okay, so this guy's not going anywhere, right? Certainly not going to be an NFL player, of course. But Wayne Phillips, which is his junior high school coach, okay, coach when he was in junior high, made arrangements for him and his brother to play at Cole College Division III. So that he gets an opportunity to play some Division III football. He doesn't get an athletic scholarship. They don't even offer him there. So he plays there for a while. Eventually, he decides to try out for the Bears, the Broncos, the Packers. Of course, he doesn't make it. They say he's too small. At this point, 6'1", 195. So he doesn't make it. He goes on to play indoor football. Makes me think of, what's his name? Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner, yeah.
And so he goes on to play some indoor football for the Sioux City Bandits. He earns $200 a week and 50 extra bucks for their team wins. That's an incentive to win, right? So he played 2 years for the Bandits in the Indoor Football League and United Football League. Eventually, he does get an invite to try out with the Buffalo Bills in 2006. And the only reason why I got an invite is that Bills manager Marv Levy also went to Coa College. He was an alumni there, so kind of does him a favor. Says, yeah, I'll go and try out for the team. But let's be honest, he's not going to make the team, right? Certainly not going to have a good career. He maybe is a practice squad at best. His first career start against Washington, he rushes for 82 yards. He catches 4 passes for 69 yards. He became the first Division III running back to start an NFL game since 2000 when it was done by Chris Warren for the Philadelphia Eagles. With that said, when it's all said and done, Fred Jackson is currently the Bills' third leading rusher behind O.J. Simpson and Thurman Thomas. The reason why I shared that story is sometimes all it takes for someone who's got talent is opportunity. And I'll give you an example. You don't have to look very far to find a guy who didn't have a really good college career, didn't have a lot of talent, but was a great NFL tight end. His name was Antonio Gates. He didn't play college football. He was a basketball player. Of course, he went on to make have a huge career. I think Bowman is a guy that you need to watch closely. He's a guy that I said earlier, I'm probably not going to draft this guy because that's just, there's a lot there that I need to see. But he's definitely a guy I'm going to be watching as season gets closer.
Yeah, I think it really bodes well for him that you just talked about Antonio Gates. Well, obviously, where did Antonio Gates play? He played for the Chargers, and you know who his quarterback was? His quarterback was Phillip Rivers for the longest time. I think the biggest thing that really bodes well for him, again, the coaches really like him, but hands down for me, it's Phillip Rivers as his quarterback. Rivers loves to throw to his tight ends, and we say opportunity is half the battle. If you don't have opportunity, you don't have a chance, and so
I think that opportunity is definitely there. I think you're right. I was definitely one of those guys. The day Hunter Henry got out, it was like, all right, let's go check out Green. And it was kind of a disappointment, but you know what, we're looking, and hopefully you're right. I think that Brandon Bowman could have a great season. All right, so my guy's Raymond Bowman. I think that's it for the video. Once again, thanks for checking us out. Here's what, get the word out there, tell your friends, subscribe, like, comment. Let's continue to build the community here. We're going to continue to improve on our product for you, but we're getting excited. Football season's getting closer. God bless and take care.